morning, Ambassador.
Morning, Pearson.
So good to have you. We've been having big conversations. Cuba, the discussion around Cuba continues to be a part of the big conversation. Cuba has brought a large delegation to CARIFESTA as well. Could you introduce our guest for us?
Well, on my immediate right, no stranger to Barbados, Ambassador Yanet Stable.
Yes.
And next to Ambassador Yanet is the Cuba's Deputy Minister of Culture, and the lovely Lizzette Martinez Luzardo. And next to the Deputy Minister is Jamal, who will be doing some interpretation for us, some translation for us.
Would you like to tell her that, Jamal, now?
Entonces, ya les presento a todo el mundo, que está la embajadora de Cuba, está usted, la viceministra de Cultura, y yo el intérprete.
So, welcome to Barbados, all of you.
Thank you.
I know, Yanet, we know you by now on boarding Barbados, but the delegation to CARIFESTA, I heard is quite significant. Why do you think it was for Cuba to have such a large delegation and its participation in CARIFESTA?
So, thank you so much for the invitation to the Ambassador David Comissiong and to you. And I think this is a great opportunity to strengthening the cultural links between both countries. In this opportunity, thank to the government of Barbados. We received the invitation of a delegation of Cuba, and it is composed for 49 members. So in different manifestations, artistic manifestation, music, visual arts, fashion as well. So I think it is literature, of course. We have the honor to have here to the National Award in Literature, Nancy Morejon. So it's a great opportunity for the Cuban to show the value of the arts that we do in Cuba, and at the same time to exchange with the Barbadian artists here. So Cuba is very honored to be here and to share with the Barbadian artists this opportunity to enrich the cultural values that both countries are.
Speaking of the cultural values, Minister, could you describe for us, from where you sit as Minister of Culture, those cultural values that we as a people of the region need to engage in?
Si usted puede describir para nosotros como viceministra de Cultura, los valores culturales que nosotros como una región tenemos que abrazar.
Creo que el CARIFESTA ha sido ejemplo de eso.
I believe that CARIFESTA has been an example of this.
Nos une la música,
The music unites us,
las expresiones literarias,
the literary expressions.
nos une la manera de ser, de comportarnos.
We are united by the way that we are, by the way that we behave.
El Caribe es una gran unión,
The Caribbean is a great union,
una sola cultura
one single culture.
que además es capaz de ser muy diversa.
That besides that is also able to be very
Es
diverse.
por eso que en este CARIFESTA
And that is why in this CARIFESTA,
la delegación cubana
the Cuban delegation
ha sido muy feliz,
has been extremely happy.
ha aprendido muchísimo
We've learned a lot,
y ha recibido mucho cariño del pueblo de Barbados.
and they've received a lot of affection from the Barbadian public.
And there's a reason for that, because Barbadians appreciate Cuba and Cubans, and there's a link between Barbados and Cuba, right, Ambassador?
Yes, there's even a blood link.
Precisely.
Many Barbadians migrated to Cuba in the 1920s to work in the sugar industry and continue to live there. But I think I have always said that there's a common culture that binds Barbados and Cuba together. You know, in many Latin American countries, you have these oligarchies,
Yes.
these elites, and that creates a culture of social elitism and so forth. Not in Cuba, because Cuba had this revolution, and as a result of that revolution, those elitist elements of the Cuban society migrated to the United States, to Miami. So Cuba is very much a kind of working class society with an ethic of social equality. And similarly Barbados, because of our peculiar history, coming out of that history of enslavement. The vast majority of our people, that's where we came from. We came from the bottom.
Yes.
So if you look at both societies have this ethic of social equality, of respect for the humanity of everyone, you know, as opposed to other societies where elitism, looking down on people, inequality. So many things bind us together, but those fundamental social values do in fact bind Barbados and Cuba together. You know?
The resistance, that's part of the message of CARIFESTA 15 as well, how we as a people have been resilient and been able to resist the threats by our colonial members.
Well, if you talk, I mean, I've always made the point that is central to our entire Caribbean history.
Mm-hmm.
We are people who yearn for freedom, struggled for freedom, resist oppression, but if you want to find which student is at the head of the class, you really have to give it to Cuba.
Indeed.
Because Cuba has always resisted, even at great expense to the Cuban society. So we really have to say that Cuba, of all the Caribbean countries, we have to acknowledge that they are the exemplar of resistance and insistence on sovereignty and self-determination. And we continue the CARICOM, that is, to give Cuba solidarity in their struggle against that illegal U.S. blockade.
If you wish, you can get into synopsis, Jamal, you can share with the minister.
Simplemente que seguimos dando el apoyo al país, a Cuba, contra el bloqueo ilegal de los Estados Unidos, reconociendo la lucha que Cuba ha dado o mostrado hasta hoy día como una bandera sobresaliente en el Caribe, en la comunidad caribeña.
And so, Minister, being able now to create systems in Cuba where younger generations understand the story of resistance, understand the story of the struggle, and the culture that they need to maintain, how do you do so in a structured way in Cuba?
Bueno, teniendo la capacidad de crear sistemas donde los jóvenes pueden entender las luchas que ha tenido el país, las generaciones más jóvenes que cómo hagan esto, desarrollan esas estructuras en una forma que permiten a esta generación joven entender lo que ha ocurrido hasta ahora.
Realmente en Cuba tenemos un sistema de educación
So actually in Cuba we have an education system
que está enfocado principalmente
that is mainly focused
en la formación integral de nuestros niños y de nuestros jóvenes.
on the integral development of our children and our youth.
Es muy importante
It's very important
que las nuevas generaciones
that the
se
new
formen
generations develop
amando lo que son,
loving themselves, loving what they are,
conociendo sus raíces
knowing their roots
y sintiendo orgullo
and feeling pride
de esa identidad que representa,
of the identity that they represent,
de sus expresiones culturales.
their cultural expressions.
Nuestro héroe nacional, José Martí,
Our national hero, José Martí,
decía que sin cultura no hay libertad posible
said that without culture, there is no possibility of freedom,
y que el pueblo que olvida su historia
and that a country that forgets its history
corre el riesgo de volver a repetirlo.
runs the risk of repeating it.
Por eso, para nosotros es muy importante
And
que
so
haya
for-
unión esencial entre la educación y la cultura.
And so for this reason, it's extremely important for us that there's a strong union between education and culture.
En Cuba se ha conocido mucho del CARIFESTA por estos días.
In Cuba, they've spoken a lot. They've learned a lot about CARIFESTA within these last few days.
Y es muy importante que sigamos juntos trabajando porque conozcamos, aprendamos la historia del Caribe.
And it's very important that we continue to work together because so we get to know and to learn the history of the Caribbean.
Porque, como decía al inicio, nos une una historia común de lucha.
Because as I said in the beginning, we are united by a common history of struggle.
De resistencia, pero también de creatividad, de optimismo.
Of resistance, but also of creativity and optimism.
Hoy en Cuba tenemos una situación muy difícil.
Today we have a very difficult situation in Cuba.
Quieren hacerle creer al mundo que somos un país terrorista.
They would like to make the world believe that we're a terrorist country.
Quieren bloquear nuestros sueños
They would like to block our dreams,
y el pueblo cubano sonríe.
but the Cuban people smile.
El pueblo cubano canta.
The Cuban people sing.
El pueblo cubano sueña.
The Cuban people dream.
Y todos los días le dice al mundo que es posible
And every day we say to the world that it's possible
defender su libertad
to have your freedom
y no someterse a ningún yugo,
and not submit to
a ninguna presión.
any pressure. And not submit to any pressure.
Somos un pueblo de paz, como nuestra región tiene que seguir siendo una zona de paz.
We are a country of peace, just as our region
No
has to
podemos-
continue being a region of peace.
No podemos permitir sometimientos, no podemos permitir mentiras para tratar de que nuestra región pierda esa estabilidad.
We cannot permit submission, we cannot permit lies so that our region loses this stability.
Por eso que viva CARIFESTA, que viva la cultura del Caribe.
So, long live CARIFESTA, long live Caribbean culture.
I was waiting for that statement. I was going to say it myself if she didn't say it. And so, Ambassador, this is what we're talking about in the big conversations we've been having. Expanding our understanding, expanding our appreciation for and of the differences, but the similarities, and the reason why together we are in one struggle. I remember the comment made by Sir Hilary Beckles when he said, "We are one nation. We're just several communities in that one nation." And if we begin to isolate our view of each other in that simple way, then we can see how all the sum parts come together as one nation in the Caribbean.
Yes, yes. And you know, George Lamming used to say the same thing. He had this one house with many rooms, and he would say, look, you know, I can better appreciate the uniqueness of my Barbadianness when I place it within the context of the other Caribbean cultures, the other
Yes.
rooms in the house, you
Yes.
know. So we don't fear this notion of a collective Caribbean. We don't think it takes away from our own island. In fact, it helps us to better appreciate when we know that we are part of this family of nations and cultures, and we all bring something unique to it, you know. It helps us to better appreciate our own national culture. But yes, Cuba is the biggest of the Caribbean islands, you know, in terms of landmass, in terms of population, over 10 million people. And that Cuban revolution, you know, there are two revolutions that are really the cornerstones of Caribbean civilization. The Haitian Revolution, but that struck a blow against slavery and for racial equality and freedom, and the Cuban Revolution that struck a blow for sovereignty and independence and social equality. And so we can't have a CARIFESTA without Cuba being present. And actually, Pearson, the only country outside of CARICOM that has hosted a CARIFESTA
Yes.
is Cuba.
Yes.
They hosted CARIFESTA in 1979.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And so, Ambassador Stable, when people come to the CARIFESTA village or wherever else the Cuban delegation will be, talk to me a little bit briefly about what we will be engaging with.
So, and as I said, I want to say this is an expression of solidarity as well of the people from Barbados and from the Caribbean to the Cuban people. And in this occasion, the engagement could be in different manifestation of art. As I said, we can learn each other about the value of this type of the artistic manifestation. In music, we can share many things. We have 2 Cuban bands here, and they are doing some workshops, so people can learn about and exchange ideas about how the Cuban artists play drums, for example,
Yes.
and in different other kind of visual arts as well, for example. So this is an opportunity to exchange not only...
Let me mention something here. The dance coordinator, who I happen to know very well, has said to me she is blown away by the talent of the Cuban modern dancers who
Yes,
have
of
come
course.
to She said these are fantastic dancers, and she hopes
Yes.
that they can stay on after CARIFESTA
Of course.
to do some teaching of dance
Of
in
course.
Barbados. That's the
Yep.
kind of quality you're talking about.
We have 2 dancers of contemporary dance of Cuba here. They are doing workshops as well. So, as I said, this is an expression of what we can do together. This is an expression of the potential that we have, both countries, not only both countries, it's the Caribbean region,
Yes.
to increase our links and to unify the value of our culture.
What an experience this morning in our conversations on Caribbean. We have to leave it there because time is up against us. But to each of you, I say thank you. Gracias. De nada.
Thank you very much.
If there's
Pearson.
one word I learned, it was that one indeed. Ambassador David Comissiong, Ambassador Stable,
Thank you so much.
Minister Luzardo, and Jamal Henry, who's interpreting indeed. Thank you so very much, each of you. Morning Barbados takes a break here. We're back in a moment.
Morning, morning, morning.